Today's Tanya. Today's Tanya. We're going to start a new letter of the Alter Rebbe, letter number 12. And just to give you an overview of the letter, because it's on page in the Hein, it's page 85. Just give an overview of the this letter because we don't get to finish in one day, and then tomorrow comes and we break, whatever, you know what it is. So just the basic goal of this letter. This letter deals entirely with a single verse from the book of Isaiah that speaks of two levels of giving charity. As discussed in the other letters that focus on this mitzvah, close door. So as discussed other letters which focus on the mitzvah of charity, the Alter Rebbe constantly points out, charity relates, it helps your inner emotional world. It's not only like you're being nice, it's actually changing your spiritual emotional self, which is a very recurring theme. How Hashem responds to the charity giver with greater infusion of spiritual connection to God.
Rabbi,
yeah.
As a litigation manager in a major corporation, I used to ask management for large amounts of money. And I at one time I worked with a manager, and he used to always say to me, once you've made the sale, get out. And it's like, I think we've had a fair amount of this, like the importance of charity, and I'm convinced. I mean, I was convinced before, by the way, but now I'm doubly convinced.
Because we're Americans, and we're like, just okay, we got the point. We don't appreciate repetition. We're very into efficiency, right? We got the point. What are you telling me? Other shades, other nuances. But Torah is all about nuances.
Meaning, but I'm a very repetitious person, but this isn't even Torah, so I'm allowed to question it here a little bit.
Well, it is Torah. Torah doesn't mean the Bible. Torah, this is Torah.
Yeah, okay.
But my point I'm saying is that I too felt like that for many years in reading these letters. But when you realize that the letters are not about, the goal is not about you to give charity. The goal of you reading these letters is not that you should then, okay, I'm going to give charity. I mean, that's a nice part of it, but it's not the whole point. He brings out deeper. The goal of Tanya in general is about being a seeker of the soul, being a seeker, truth seeker, a God seeker. That's the goal. Amen. It's leading a life of truth, of the spirit, and that's a very murky, complicated area. So this idea of charity, he goes into different aspects of how it literally, if you're a seeker of the soul, if you're a seeker of truth, it actually is one of the greatest boosters, and in different ways. He's not saying the same thing every letter. So let's see this is a different letter. I think until now we had other things. Okay. So the two levels that'll be discussed in this letter are the two levels in the service of the soul and in the soul. One where a person performs service that's in line with his nature, and a second, deeper level, which reveals itself when the person goes to do service beyond his nature. So you have spiritual nature. There's certain spiritual sensibilities you have, just the way you're built. It says the Talmud says that there's basic telltale signs of a Jew is compassion, modesty, and bashfulness, and mercy. That is not like because you're a meditator and you get to mercy. It's like this is like built into the Jewish psyche. However, there's the natural compassion / kindness. And then we're going to see you can go beyond even natural. And we talked about that a few letters ago, about going beyond and how it's important to go beyond. Okay, let's go. By the way, the idea of doing your soul's nature or doing good beyond your soul's nature isn't just a charity thing. It's going to apply in prayer and in general, and you're relating to God from prayer, right? There's like the natural desire of man to pray. Then there's the beyond the natural way you're connecting through God, beyond the natural impulse to pray. There's like a certain communion beyond that. So But that applies in charity. There's basic, there's built into the system, there's beyond, going beyond the system. Okay. And then, of course, as we know, everything we do reciprocates, God reciprocates. This is a very important rule. Reciprocity with God. It's a huge thing. It's a fancy English word, but it means midah keneged midah. God deals with humanity measure for measure. That's just the way it is.
Wow.
For the good and sometimes the not so good.
All right.
Okay, page 380. Sorry, Tanya and there. It says the reward for the act of tzedakah is peace. And the reward for the service of tzedakah will be quietness and surety forever. So the reward for the act of tzedakah is peace. Let's repeat that. Act of tzedakah equals peace. The service of tzedakah is eternal quietness and safety. Okay. Sounds repetitive. There's Isaiah, it's a prophet. To me, it sounds like poetic, repeating yourself in different ways. But no, we don't do that in Torah. We don't say things the same thing twice. It's always different shades. And that's why it will only repeat itself if there's another point to be made. So to understand the difference of the act of charity versus the service, the amaisa, the act, and the avoidas, hatzedakah, the service. What's the difference? And then what's also the difference of the two rewards? Shalom, peace, or eternal quietness. It's kind of like peace, right? But there's a difference of those terms. So let's understand them. We'll understand that by what our sages of blessed memory said on the verse, Osei Shalom Bimromav. We say, and it's actually from Eov, from Job. It says, God makes peace in his high places. What does that mean? Probably one of the most famous prayers that Jews know, right after the Shema. It's probably number 2 for American Jews. Thanks to the song Osei Shalom Bimromav. But what does it mean? He makes peace in his high places. What does that mean? He goes to Mount Everest and makes peace. What does that mean? So here's what it means. It means the following, says the rabbis in the Medrash. The high places means in the spiritual realms, in the worlds of what we call angels. And there's an angel, one of the main angels is Michael. Michael is the prince of water. He's the angel of water. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then Gabriel is the angel of fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's endless angels, but those I guess are two big ideas. They're probably a whole genre of angels, more like it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, these two angels are built. One's fire and one's water. Now, there's not physical fire water because it's still in the spiritual realms. But regardless, that means they're polar opposites. But even if it means a spiritual version of fire and water, the same way down here, fire and water don't mix, so too their spiritual representation above don't mix. Does not mean the angels aren't fighting. This means that there's, in general, angels. Okay, so in general, we're angels means all the same way. There's nature and there's laws of nature and there's all physics. There's spirituality laws, and that's kind of what the angels are. The Rambam describes as basically metaphysical intelligences between God and man. But be it as it may, won't get into what angels are and all. There's many.
In what book does Rambam describe these angels?
He briefly describes the 10 levels of angels in Mishnah Torah and Yesodei HaTorah, the first 2 chapters.
Thank you.
Anyways, he says like this. So God is making peace between these kind of polar opposite type angels, these spiritual energies. So we have to understand that doesn't mean that, again, this is an angel of water, a water angel, and this is a fire angel, because there's no physical stuff there. So it has to be the concept of fire as it exists, but in not as a utilitarian thing like we know fire and water, but like as a concept, as an idea. What's the idea? What is the idea? What does water represent at its most core level? Its idea, not liquidy stuff. I'm saying the water at its most core idea is chesed. It's kindness. Water flows. It's the stuff of life. It is a embodiment of God's chesed. So the angels, which represent aspects of God's infinite powers, the angel of chesed is called Malach Michael, the angel Michael, the angel of kindness. Kindness is called water because it flows from a high place to a low place on page 86. In spiritual terms, what does that represent? It means kindness means the descent, means the bestowal and diffusion of the divine life force from the higher to the lower worlds. So pretty straightforward. Kindness is water. There's an angel, minister of kindness. By the way, you see in the story of Abraham and the three angels, right? One was Michael, one was Gavriel, and one was Raphael. Michael came to save, I think, Lot. And Gavriel came to destroy Sodom. And Raphael came to heal Abraham.
Wow.
You already see that, Gavriel's the punishing angel and Michael's the saving angel, the kindness angel. Okay. Fire, whose nature is to soar aloft, represents spirituality, the thrust of Gevura, the upward withdrawal of the flow of life force. So fire is the opposite. Fire is Gevura. Why? It starts at the bottom, or let's say circle at the periphery, and it goes to the center. So it means that it feels that it basically, it's like longing to dissolve into God. Like fire wants to go up, it's like the longing to go up. So what does that mean in as far as life flow? It's saying don't spill out your life force and make these lower, simple being creatures that have free choice that could do bad or whatever, or things that are where divinity is hidden. Go back to the core, be in the womb, so to speak, of God. Fire, whose nature is to soar aloft, represents spiritually the thrust of Gevura and the upward withdrawal of the flow of life force, in order not to bestow except by way of an intense and immense contraction. Just if you're going to give a little bit because you don't want to, give the wrong stuff. It's very judgy, is the Gevura. You only give the minimum needed based on deservance. Right? Someone who's a very generous guy doesn't care. He wants to give. He's a pleasure of giving. A guy who's extremely calculated is like, you better earn it. You better deserve it if I give it to you. One's chesed, one's gvura. Now, these attributes are in conflict, right? One's unlimited. It's okay.
What? Should we check it out?
I guess. One is unlimited and one is very specific. But only when they are in their pristine state as attributes. But the Holy One Blessed makes peace between them through revelation, so that an immense illumination, intense infusion from the infinite light is revealed with them. Basically, God brings a great light that transcends the differences and therefore makes them reconcile, even though it's impossible, seemingly. For like his name, so is he. God is infinite. God can infuse the opposites. He is not heaven for offend on the measured plane of an attribute, but transcends exceedingly ad infinitum. even the rank of the intellectual faculties of Chabad, which is the source of the attributes. And then when God's infinite light is revealed within the attributes, the opposing attributes of Michael and Gavriel are absorbed in their source and root. And they become truly unified and are nullified in his light, which radiates them in a manifest way. The Gevurot are thereby tempered and mellowed in the Chasadim and are transformed to good and kindness. So, by way of analogy, you can have two high ministers of the king that each one has a different agenda. One's the minister of defense, one the minister of economy. One wants to spend on the war, one wants to save. So when the king comes in the room, all their differences are put aside because they're awestruck of who they represent. And then the fact that one is supposed to spend on war, one's supposed to spend on saving the economy, that goes away. And their rivalry or their competition dissolves into friendship. Because in the face of the king, they realize they're not really enemies, they're not really rivals, they're only arms of the king. And then,
I'm sorry.
okay, no problem.
I don't know if it was going to be on.
I'm not sure.
Hmm?
I'm not sure.
There's some very interesting gematrias I'll tell you later for both fire and water if you want to.
Show your card. Show your ID. Show your ID. We have to know who you are.
Okay, moving along. The Gevurot,
There's a reason why the store is locked.
the Gevurot are thereby tempered and mellowed in the Chasadim. What do it mean, thank you? They're tempered and mellowed in the Chasadim.
Have a good day. Shabbos.
By mediary, the determining factor between Chesed and Gevurah, which leans towards Chesed. Attribute of Racham, of mercy.
Right. Everything's okay.
So when basically there's an infusion of infinity, Gevurah is mellowed. Well, which means there's more kindness, more revelation than judgy, than prevention. So just to understand, why is it the other way? Why doesn't why doesn't Chesed become more Gevurah? Why does Gevurah kind of have to go after Chesed when God reveals the infinity? Then there's more Chesed. Why not? Maybe there's more Gevurah, equally 50-50. So he says like this. The Steiner. One explanation is that connected to the essence of the attribute of compassion, we're going to talk about, because compassion becomes the dominant thing, which is more kindness than severity. But there's a much broader explanation. And this goes to what we call the world of tikkun, the world of rectification versus the world of chaos. We know a world of tohu, of chaos, was a primordial, was a prototype world where there was too much light and nothing could kind of work together. So infrastructure collapsed. Attributes that do not limit each other, that are very like, I'm chesed all the way, I'm gvura, then they blow up because there's no room to mitigate each other. A world is a parameter. So when you have unlimited attributes, you can't have the world. Something has to go.
Mm-hmm.
Unlimited giving is dangerous. Give a knife to a child.
Oi.
Unlimited stinginess is also bad.
Oi.
That is what is. That's what it's chaos. That was the world of chaos that collapsed. We see in children. Children they can have midot. They can have emotions that are not tempered by each other. The fundamental impulses are unadulterated and unambiguous. This is why people avoid giving children small animals, because they can smother them. Because they love them so much, they can The world of tikkun, of rectification, our world, is a world that is constantly rectifying its reality. In the world of rectification, every force has attributes that limit it. In the world of rectification, every force has attributes. Every instance of justice is a limitation beyond which it must not be stretched. Every expression of love, there's a limit. You can't smother the guy to suffocate, right? In the world of rectification, there are no pure attributes, but rather every emotion is like tempered by the other. There's chesed and gvura, gvura and chesed, and so on. By contrast, the world of chaos is a world of justice, in which the forces contained therein are totally separated from each other. We didn't explain why. Okay. How are they rectified? Through the mediary of compassion, the middle. In general, if you look at the sphere, there's like 3 triangles on top of each other, triad, and so I'm sure this. So basically, we have chesed gvura, but there's a third thing called compassion, rachamim, also known as tferes by the Kabbalists, because it's a beautiful harmony of like 2 colors, pink and red and white makes pink. Because chesed is red. I'm sorry, chesed is white. White is pure giving, and gvura is like fire, is red. I don't know. The guy upstairs. I think they're outside somewhere.
They were on the swings.
So mercy is not unrestrained giving, because you do acknowledge this guy might not deserve it, this homeless guy, let's say, but have compassion, you give anyways. So it's like knowing the deserving, but then it's giving anyways. It says here, interesting, that the name Havaya in the Torah, when it's unqualified, it refers to this trait of the Sfirot, of Tferes, of mercy. Havai is the name of mercy. We saw Rashi say that a few times. For here in Tiferet, the infinite Ein Sof light becomes manifest in immense illumination, surpassing that of the other divine attributes.
And when you say mercy, you mean Rachaman.
Rachamim, Yeah, Rachaman, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting that there's a lot of like these very short lines, but there's a lot of notes here on this because so okay, just I have to read more of this. It's really fascinating stuff, but it's very interesting that although Tiferes is number 3 on the sphere list, it actually reaches it's a representation of something higher than even the first two, because 3 means you're able to reconcile. To reconcile, you need something transcendent. That means you can only exist by something that's beyond. So although it's 3, it's really higher in a way than number 1 and 2 of Chesed and Gevura. So what this means for us, we see this and this plays out in the Torah. There's 7 names of God in the Torah. There's Kel, Elokim. So Kel, Aleph Lamed is Chesed. We said it before. Elokim is Gevura, that we know. It's Din. Havaya, the Yud Kevavke, if it's unqualified, it means mercy. Now, mercy, in a way, is even kinder than kindness, because on one hand, it realizes the recipient deserves or not. I mean, there's a relationship to the recipient, but yet it gives, more than deserved. Anyways, so the name Havaya represents the attribute of mercy, which in a way is the most essential of all of God's attributes, even more than kindness. We have to qualify that because I think mercy is really, kindness doesn't necessarily have a relationship with the recipient. It's just giving. I want to give. Like you deserve, I don't care, whatever. You deserve or don't deserve. Feels good to give. Mercy, there's already a certain fusion of you're realizing the guy, is pitiful and he's deserving to not deserve, yet you give even more sometimes based on his needs. So the point is that this is a very essential name of God. And that is